Okay, this video is going to deal with what do you do if your school or your staff is not responsive during this time post April 6th, or for those of you who live in other parts of the country that are also at home and haven't heard anything from your school district. Guys, there's not going to, the Federal Department of Education has already sort of signaled that you got to do something. It's got to be good faith effort. You got to do something. You can't just sit there and do nothing, because nothing is something. But in James Galini world, that nothing that turns into something is called a violation of your child's right to a free and appropriate public education. So doing nothing turns into something. And that something is what I'm going to be talking about now. So those of you who live in school districts that are not responsive, and I would give them until that April 6th marker. That tends to be sort of the uniform. That was the same date New Mexico had, Alabama had, um, and some other states that I saw. You know, they had closed their schools for 3 weeks. April 3rd, but 6th is the first day back. Now, Alabama closed their schools for the remainder of the school year. New Mexico merely extended the closure. Okay? So just because the school is closed doesn't mean that learning has stopped. Doesn't mean that the FAPE requirement is not there. It just is different. Look at my other video that I made. I am making a series, and instead of making a 20 or 30-minute video, I'm I'm chunking them so that, you know, those of you who think I'm long-winded anyway can just sort of get to the point of what you're interested in, and then not have to look at me or listen to my voice. Okay, so on this one, what I wanted to cover was, what if your school system or your teacher within your school system is not responsive, or you believe that it's a lackluster, half-ass attempt. Okay, but on that, please understand that this is not going to be perfect. The requirement even isn't even close to having them be perfect. It's not even close to them having to be comparable. Now, why? Guys, it's impossible to do a comparable IEP in this state of affairs unless your child is already on homebound. If your child's on homebound, yippee, okay? Your child's been practicing social distancing and a safety and health standard. So nothing should change for your homebound child other than the fact that you won't have necessarily a one-to-one, but that one-to-one instruction could still be done comparably through you know, video conferencing like Zoom. It could be done through packets, and you know, I don't want to go into ways that it could be done, but I'm just saying that homebound's about the only one that I can think of that isn't really that disrupted by this new standard. The new standard is going to be safety and health. The safety and health moved all the IEPs into sort of the same cluster of status. Because if your child's a 0-1, a 0-3, a 0-4, even a 0-4, which is self-contained, that's impossible right now. So the entire IEP was developed around that LRE. Whether it's majority of the day in general education, part of the day, or all of their day, almost all of their day in a self-contained. That's not available. So what ends up happening is all the students were moved along the continuum of alternative placements to this new status that of the declared emergency under the safety and health standard. So under the safety and health standard, now all of a sudden we have good faith efforts that need to be made, and the comparable standard of what can feasibly be done per your child's IEP may need to be adjusted. All right, you want to know what the FAPE standard is, watch the other video. But starting on April 6th, or even right now, and in fact, I think it's a good idea just to be safe, guys, because we don't know what the limited waivers are going to look like that the Secretary of Education is going to have authority to hand out. We don't know these things yet, so it's better, not only for the school system, but also for you, to do your due diligence and keep a freaking notebook. You need to document, freaking document, and then document some more. So if you need to go back, you need to sit there and chart on a calendar when school was released. You need to take into account if you had spring break in between, because you have no communication with staff during that time. You need to sit there and document whether you received any kind of emails, whether you received any kind of telephone calls. It doesn't mean you have to have them, but just sort of say, yes, we received calls saying that the schools were closed. Yes, I received a call or an email from my case manager, from my special education teacher, from the special ed director, telling me that they were working on solutions. They would keep us updated. This is all before, okay? So you need to make sure that you notate and maintain a good record or a timeline of events during the past 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, now we know school has been closed for the remainder of the school year, or the closure extended. Now the school needs to start providing services. The school building may be closed, but school's not closed, okay? So we need to so the schools are directed to provide services. Now, how are we going to do that? We don't know yet, but this is where you need to log any communication with the school system. You need to be proactive, and you need to send a nice email to your special education director or to your case manager, special ed teacher, saying, hey, we're here. We're more than willing to help collaborate. We're so happy that, that we have a little bit more guidance and direction. Guys, this is just good politics. This is just you being a mature IEP team member is what that is. All right? Don't be a jerk. That's going to be the theme, okay? Our COVID-19 theme during this time period is don't be a jerk. I can make it into a song if you want, or a rap. Just let me know. I'll take a poll and we'll make it up. Don't be a jerk. But what that also does is especially in email, is it logs your attempts. It also is a good piece of evidentiary, just evidence, guys, if you need it, because it's going to track your attempts to communicate. You can't sit there and say, well, I tried to call. Well, the school's closed. You don't necessarily have these people's phone number, and quite frankly, you shouldn't have their phone number unless they give it to you. But don't harass them, okay? Be mindful that you are just one of 30 kids on our caseload, if not more. For a special education, that's, exponentially higher. Be respectful and be nice. But at the same time, document the attempts, document any kind of communication from them, save it in a folder when you're in your email system. Mark it COVID-19, because there's going to be a little bit of a difference of analysis between August to March and March to May. Because if it comes time to where there needs to be a determination of whether your child is entitled to, let's say, compensatory services, remedial services, in, let's say, the summer or over the course of next school year, that is where you show that you're entitled to these things. If you don't document, then you can't prove that you didn't receive something comparable, guys. So don't come to me crying, well, I didn't know. Well, you do know, okay? You do know because I'm telling you. You do know because you need to be smarter than that as a parent and as a valuable member of your child's IEP team. You don't sit there and say, well, I didn't know. I am telling you. All right? And there is a common sense piece here, guys. I expect all of you to have some common sense during this time. And not play dumb and not be stupid, okay? We can all get through this together, but it has to be collaboration. If there are those schools, if there are those teachers, and if you have one of those teachers that is, for whatever reason, isn't being responsive, then do me a favor. Before you call me, send another email to the special education director copying your case manager or teacher on there and let them know that you're not getting any kind of response. Because it could be something stupid like the special ed teacher isn't there anymore, or the special ed teacher isn't getting your emails and for some reason they're going to spam. There are going to be sometimes very logical, sensible explanations. But this is also why you need to communicate through email, because you can sit there and track that stuff. All right? That way, you're not going to be a victim of excuses, or the dog ate it, or we tried to call you, or we tried to email you, we tried to communicate. This is where you need to also be proactive and send that information also to the school saying, I'm here. But you also need to be agreeable to extending timelines. You also need to be agreeable. I'm not saying that you need to change your goals. You don't. The goals that I'm going to cover that in the next segment, okay, about how your IEP should look. All I wanted to do in this one is sit there and tell you to document. Keep a good timeline of this entire chain of events from May and in Alabama until June 5th. Okay? And in New Mexico and Tennessee and Georgia, you just document. I have a feeling that New Mexico will cancel theirs as well. But, that's just me betting. Got it? Now that Vegas is closed, this is my only avenue to bet.